This is a recorded interview for the Ministry of Truth Historical Archive. Subject: Sgt Hector Gabriel Alvarez of the 31st Truth Enforcer Regiment. Interview conducted to preserve first-hand accounts of Helldiver operations during the Second Galactic War. Sergeant Alvarez, thank you for agreeing to speak with us today.
Yeah, of course. If it helps people understand what happened out there, then it's worth doing.
Let's start at the beginning. Before the armor, before the drops. Tell us about your life on Fort Union.
Fort Union. Yeah, that's home. I was born in New Hope City, but we didn't live in the city proper. My family had farmland about 30 kilometers outside the perimeter. Grain fields mostly. Big open plains. The wind never stopped blowing across them. My father ran the farm, same as his father before him. My mother helped manage the cooperative shipments whenever we went through New Hope silos. It was quiet work, long days, but honest ones. When you grow up out there, you learn to fix machinery before you learn half the things they teach you in school. Tractors break down, irrigation lines burst, but if you don't fix it yourself, the crops don't come in. So most days it was just that: fields, machinery, dust, and the sound of the wind.
But you were already aware of the war.
Oh, yeah, everybody was. Even out on the frontier, you couldn't escape it. Every night, the ministry broadcast came through the house radio. Updates from the front, recruitment speeches, footage from the Helldivers. My great grandfather had been one during the First Galactic War, so the stories were always around. When the Second Galactic War kicked off in 2184, I wanted to enlist right then.
But you didn't.
No, my father shut that down pretty fast. He told me straight up: war or no war, the farm still feeds people. And he was right. We were shipping grain to half the sector. With the war ramping up, those shipments mattered more than ever. So instead of a rifle, I had a wrench in my hands. Didn't mean I didn't stop thinking about joining, though. Every broadcast, every time they showed Helldivers dropping out of the orbit, it stayed in the back of my head.
What about your personal life during this time?
That was when I met Maria Santos. She lived closer to New Hope City. Her family ran a repair shop that serviced farm vehicles and freight haulers. First time we met was because I brought in a broken harvester gearbox. She fixed it faster than I could have, and after that, well, I kept finding reasons for equipment to break. We started seeing each other not long after that. Back then, things felt normal. We talked about staying on Fourth Union, maybe expanding the farm, starting a family. Simple plans.
And today?
She's my wife now. We've got two kids. Mateo, he's 6, and Elena, she's 3. They're still on Fourth Union. That's where I go whenever the Defender of Equality rotates back through this sector. It's good to see them. Reminds you of what you're fighting for.
I'd like to move to the moment when the war changed for everyone. The Illuminate attack on Super Earth. Do you remember that day?
Yeah, everyone remembers that day.
Can you describe where you were when you heard the news and how you felt when reports came in that the Illuminate had invaded Earth and assassinated the president of Super Earth?
Yeah, I remember it pretty clearly. I was out in the South Fields that morning, fixing an irrigation pump that had seized up overnight. Nothing unusual, just another day of farm work. Maria had those radios on the inside. She always listened to the news while she worked on the paperwork for her repair shop. At first, it just sounded like another broadcast. Updates from the war, something about fleet movements near the outer systems. And then the tone changed. You know that emergency tone they use on the public channels? That long rising signal? I heard it from inside the house. So I walked in. still covered in grease, and Maria was standing there staring at the radio like she had seen a ghost. The announcer kept repeating the same thing. Emergency bulletin from Super Earth High Command. All citizens remain calm. Nobody ever stays calm after hearing that, though.
What did the broadcast report?
At first, they didn't know exactly what was happening, just that something had appeared near Earth's orbit. Ships, thousands of them, illuminate ships. The reporters kept using the same phrase over and over again. The Great Host. The thing that shook everyone is how they arrived. They came out of the black hole not that long before. A black hole that wasn't supposed to exist.
The singularity created during the destruction of Meridian.
Yeah, that's the one. When Super Earth destroyed Meridia to wipe out the terminated super colony, they had created that artificial singularity. Most people thought it was just space debris after that. Something distant. Excuse me. But the Illuminati turned it into a doorway. And on May 20th, they came pouring out of it. Like ants.
Do you remember the first images of the invasion?
Yeah. They switched the broadcast to live orbital footage. You could see Earth from orbit. And then these massive ships came out of the black. Hundreds, maybe thousands of them. Those damned squids. The illuminated war forms surrounding the planet. And then the fighting started. Super Earth fleet ships were already trying to stop them. You could see explosions across the planet. Whole cruisers breaking apart. Maria was holding onto my arm so hard it hurt. Neither of us said a word. We just watched.
At some point, the broadcast reported that the president had been killed.
Yeah, that part. That was when the room got real quiet. They had cut away from the orbital footage for a while. Days later, then the emergency channel came back on, and the ministry spokesperson appeared, and he looked pale. He said the president had been killed trying to hide in the presidential bunker. He gave a last stand, and they killed him just like that. With a pistol in his hand, they said. You could hear the people shouting in the background of the broadcast. That's when it really hit the people. Earth wasn't just under attack, it was being invaded.
How did the colonies react?
Shock. That's the only way to describe it. Earth was untouchable. Or at least we thought it was, you know? It's the center of everything: government, fleet command, and the whole system. If Earth could be invaded, then nowhere were safe. Within a few hours, every channel was running emergency messages, mobilization orders there, fleet redeployments here, recruitment drives especially.
And what were you thinking during all of this?
Honestly, I felt useless. There I was standing in a farmhouse kitchen watching the homeworld burn. Helldivers were fighting over Earth. Fleet crews were dying in orbit. And I was still on a farm. My father saw it on my face. He didn't say anything at first. He just turned the radio off and then went back outside. But I knew what I was thinking. If Earth could burn, Fort Union could not be too far ahead.
And not long after that, the Terminids arrived on Fort Union.
Yeah, not long after. And that was when everything changed.
Not long after the invasion of Super Earth, your homeworld experienced a Terminid outbreak. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that was the second one. Most people forget about that part sometimes. The first outbreak happened earlier that month, early May. A smaller infestation. Bugs had appeared in the northern plains, somewhere beyond the outer agricultural zones. Sieve units responded fast. Helldivers dropped in, cleared out the nests, and within a few days the broadcast said the infestation had been contained. Most folks on Fort Union thought it was just the end of it. Just another frontier scare. Life went back to normal pretty quickly after that. Harvest schedules, repair work, shipments moving again. But the Illuminate had hit Earth. Things started to feel different. Everybody was on edge.
What do you mean?
You'd hear things. Rumors mostly. Freight pilots talking about strange seismic readings outside of the planes. Farmhands finding patches of soil that looked wrong, like something had been burrowing underneath. People reported hearing noises at night, clicks, scratching sounds underneath the ground, few farm animals disappearing. Most of the time, the authorities said it was just the animals or machinery vibrations, but people were nervous. And then the second outbreak happened.
Where were you when it started?
Same place I'd been most of my life, the farm. It was late afternoon. The sun was starting to drop behind the hills. I was checking one out of the grain silos with my father. We heard the sirens first. New Hope City had these emergency warning systems that could be heard all the way out into the surrounding farmlands. That long wailing alarm. We heard it once before during the storm evacuations, but this time it was different. The radio kicked in right after. Emergency broadcast from Planetary Command, and they said terminate activity had been detected across multiple agricultural sectors. Large scale infestation, and they were spreading fast.
Did you see the bugs yourself?
Yeah, not long after the alert, we started seeing the dust plumes across the plains. At first, I thought that it was just vehicles moving. Then the ground started to shake, and I heard that familiar screech. Those damned bugs calling for a breach. You could feel it through your boots, and the first bugs came over the ridge about a kilometer from the fields. Scouts mostly, smaller ones, and then they got bigger. They were moving through the crops, tearing through the grain like it was nothing. And the animals, those were sounds I didn't think I'd have to hear. But I remember thinking how strange it looked. Those were the same fields I had worked in since I was a kid. And suddenly they were crawling with things that didn't belong there.
What did people do?
Most folks grabbed whatever the weapons they had. Frontier colonies keep rifles around for wildlife or for emergencies. But the farm rifles don't stop a swarm. The local militia tried to form a perimeter while civilians started evacuating towards New Hope City. You could hear people shouting across the fields, the engines starting, trucks moving families towards the roads, and then the bigger bugs showed up. That's when people understood how bad it really was.
What happened next?
Sea forces arrived pretty quickly. Dropships came in low across the plains, and they started pushing the bugs back while evacuation convoys moved towards the city. Helldivers dropped in later that evening. Watching those pods streak down the sky, I'd seen it in the broadcast before, but seeing it in person, that was different. Those Helldivers hit the ground and went straight into the swarm. Autocannons, liberators, stratagem strikes, everything you could imagine. It was like watching a storm roll across the fields.
And that's when you made your decision?
Yeah, standing there watching them fight, watching my home get torn apart. I knew staying on the farm wasn't enough anymore. After the first wave of the infestation was pushed back, recruitment offices opened up in New Hope City. I went in the next morning, didn't even bring a bag. I just walked in and told them I wanted to enlist.
How did your family react?
My father just nodded. He didn't even try to stop me this time. I think he knew the war had reached us whether we liked it or not. Maria cried, but she told me to go. Said somebody had to stop these things before they reached Earth.
And that was when you joined the Helldivers?
Yeah, signed the papers that same day. A few weeks later, I was on Zagema Paradise, starting training. Didn't know it then, but the next time I'd see the bugs, like the ones on Fort Union, it would be on another planet. A planet called Terek.